Our next presenter is Jim Makoso, CEO of Flowe Technology. Flowe Technology creates the only true cannabis nanoparticles by using a one-step water-based extraction process that eliminates dangerous solvents. The resulting product is a microcrystalline powder that can be infused with almost any base ingredient to create solid and liquid edibles. These edibles created by Flowe are both solventless and faster acting. They have 3 patent pendings in the process, and my wife and I were actually just talking about your product, about how we can put that in cookies with this sugar. So we were actually talking about that this morning. So hopefully I didn't steal all of your thunder, but Jim, it's to you now, Jim Makoso.
Hey guys, thank you for the opportunity, Tim. Really appreciate it. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope you guys are all finishing this year well, despite what's going on with COVID. And to my other presenters, best of luck, and hope you have success with all your raises. I'm going to share my screen right now. And can you see that?
Yes.
Great. So as was just mentioned, at Flowe, as Tim mentioned, at Flowe Technology, we create the only powdered cannabis nanoparticles in the world. I'm Jim. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of this exciting opportunity. Our work is focused on using nanotechnology to create a better product platform to get cannabis into consumer products to enable safer, more reliable, and more consistent consumer experiences, which is what we feel is really lacking in the industry right now. To make this possible, we've developed and proven a sustainable production process, outputting versatile cannabis nanoparticles in a water-based extraction process. There's many applications for the technology. For us, we're going to go after the lowest hanging fruit first, and that is using our technology to create infused ingredients like sweeteners, salt, cocoa powder, dried milk, and others, and selling them directly to product manufacturers in a B2B model. At the moment, the bar for consumer products is exceptionally low, but that's going to change. What we found in the market, and we've been in the market, in the regulated market for 6 years, and what we've seen is that leading companies have yet to make quality their highest priority, and often are selling contaminated products, or as Terry pointed out, products that don't have any cannabinoids in them at all. Industry standard is to use harmful solvents and additives to create these products. I think Davina did a great job of illustrating in her industry specifically some ways that companies are trying to go around that. But given our experience in extraction, we find that most companies, to create infused products like food, beverages, cosmetics and supplements, they're taking the sticky, messy, difficult to work with extract and then using things like solvents, surfactants, and emulsifiers to try to create stable products. As a result, end consumers are having inconsistent product experiences and unwanted side effects. At Flowe, we've incorporated methods from the pharma, food, and beverage industries into several patent-pending technologies used to create our product platform. As Tim mentioned a little earlier, we're using water in a sustainable extraction process to produce powdered extract. We then take our nanoparticleized extract and then combine it into new types of product ingredients. And really what this enables us to do is create a wider array of options for CPG product manufacturers at very competitive pricing. To get started, as mentioned, there's a lot of applications for the technology, but we are using our technology to create common ingredients like sugar and other sweeteners, salt, coffee, cocoa powder, and creating that model to sell directly to manufacturers to create more stable and consistent as well as versatile products. We all know this already. Davina outlined this in her slides as well. The market is a huge market and growing. This year, we estimate Technavio estimates between $14 to $15 billion global market and growing to over $45 billion by 2025. And the target customers that we're going after are 30% of that market. In terms of the activity, what are the big CPG brands that are already in the space? I'm sure a lot of you who are a little bit more focused on the cannabis industry saw this yesterday into today, and that is Aphria and Tilray announced a reverse merger that's worth about $4 billion. And if you read a number of the articles, with Bloomberg probably being the one I'd highlight the most, That merger is to take advantage of the U.S. and European markets and the expansion of consumer packaged goods, specifically food and beverages is what they mentioned specifically. A couple of other companies that have made investments into the space from the consumer packaged goods side. Constellation Brands, we all know about, $3 billion in Canopy. Altria, $1.4 in Kronos Group. Molson Coors, $43 million in Hexo. Anheuser-Busch, who is a part of this Tilray transaction, invested $38 million for beverage development with Tilray in a joint venture. And most recently, Nestle, a large CPG brand, inked a deal with a company named GeoCan to take their soft gels that were with a infusion technology using a liposome or a self-assorting colloid, basically an emulsion, and taking that product and distributing it into Europe. So there's really big CPG companies in the space right now. For us, given the quality of the products that we're outputting, this is how we're going to make money. Our business model is based in these three revenue channels, and that is partnerships with large companies in supply and development agreements, of which we've signed a couple of letters of intent with our first round of customers already. White label CPG brands will bring in-house and produce their products in our licensed facility here in Seattle and distribute those to Washington-based retailers, of which we have a network of distribution already. And then finally, hemp CBD manufacturers like Davina's company who are looking to expand their products and focus on cleaner, more sustainable solutions for infused ingredients for their products. To make this happen, it takes a qualified team. Me and my team have over 18 years of cannabis and hemp experience. Anybody who comes from the cannabis industry knows that cannabis years are like dog years. Every year you're in the space, there's 7 years of other industries. My background is in finance. I'm an experienced entrepreneur. This is my third business in the cannabis space. And I hold several board seats, advisory board seats on a number of other companies, as well as an investor in a couple other companies. Steve is an electrical engineer, and he comes with a background in electronics manufacturing. He's really our technology expert, and he's actually developed industry standard technology in a previous company that we've owned that's become industry standard for distillation. And then Brad rounds us out. He is a published pharmaceutical chemist who cut his teeth initially at the USDA marijuana research program before joining industry and joining one of the largest hemp manufacturing companies in Colorado. By extension, our board of advisors, given the technology and our goal to attack the CPG sector first, kind of rounds us out. A couple of scientists, Kyle, who is well known in the semiconductor technology space for creating manufacturing solutions, and Marco, one of the largest CPG companies, owns one of the largest CPG companies in Washington. From a competitive landscape, there's a few companies, there's many companies out there trying to create infused solutions. Vertosa is probably the one I'd illuminate the most. They're the most well-known, doing the deals with the biggest companies, including Pabst, who just released a seltzer infused with THC in California. Vertosa developed that nano emulsion technology that went into that product. But the big takeaway, I'd say, is we are the only company creating our infusions in a fully sustainable manufacturing process using water, where our only byproducts are water, cannabinoids, and table salt. Beyond that, we do not use additives or any surfactants in our infusion process. In other words, to create an ingredient, we just use cannabinoids, our intellectual property, and the ingredient to make a infused ingredient. A few more details about our competitive advantages. As mentioned, we have a few provisional patents we're hoping to convert into utility patents in the next 6 to 9 months. Some of the technology where we are developing literally at the cutting edge of what's possible in the cannabis space include using polymers and nanoporous membrane filtration. In addition, one place that we think really sets us apart is we are the only company creating carboxylated cannabinoids in this in nanoparticle form. We think that the acidic cannabinoids have a lot of benefits. We're certainly doing the research on the back end to showcase that, and certainly that's an educational component we will contribute to into the future. And then beyond that, as mentioned, our process is fully solvent and additive free. A little bit of traction. As mentioned, we proved at the benchtop or lab scale our process in March. We filed our provisional patents there in Q2 over the summer. We closed our first investment of $150,000 in September. We started our facility build out in our new facility here in October. We signed a few letters of intent back in November, and we just got our license last week to process cannabis here in Washington. And we're looking to close this round of investment here in Q1. So our revenue model consists of developing a customer base to sell our infused ingredients as kind of the first application of our technology. We expect to earn about $10,000 per customer and add about 10 customers to our product pipeline next year. We expect to start the sales of our products in Q2, at the end of Q2 over the summer. And as mentioned, we've already kind of built that initial pipeline of customers, signing letters of intent for them to be kind of the first in line as we develop. This is, we anticipate, is going to lead to about a $20 million gross revenue company by 2024 at a 33% margin. This gives you kind of a snapshot of how we anticipate that we'll get there. And really, the primary revenue channels are going to be focused, at least as it pertains to THC, here in Washington initially, and as it pertains to our hemp CBD customers throughout the U.S. In terms of what we're doing in a raise, we're raising $1 million at a 7% convertible note, 20% discounted to $6 million valuation cap. And that's really going to fund our growth over the course of the next 18 to 24 months. The primary investment outside of the technology that we've already developed is going to be the team. Obviously, to execute anything at this level of technological advancement in any industry, you need good people. We've certainly started with a good foundation, but we've segregated about 10% of our company for an option pool to attract a really good team. And obviously, we're going to use some of this capital to bring on a process chemist and a food scientist in addition to the scientists we already have here on site. What's the exit opportunity? Why is this such a promising sector of the space? Probably the most comparative company that we'd say would showcase a similarity in terms of the exit opportunity is a company named Ebu. They sold for just right around $330 million, and mainly stock and some cash to Canopy, which as you know, has that big investment from Constellation Brands. And really, this is a company that was focused purely on cannabis technology and developing intellectual property around growing the plant. They had, at the time of acquisition, about 20 patents that were granted and about 20 in the pipeline with no revenue. Similar to us, they started by creating products to showcase their technology and develop really the strategy. But as they've developed steam and momentum in their intellectual property portfolio, they focus fully on the technology. Certainly, from a comparative standpoint, we see ourselves growing in a similar way. We are certainly a technology company, but to get to where we want to be in terms of development of technology, you got to make money, and there's a lot of really good applications for this technology in the market right now. We see our technology being different in that their focus was on growing the plant. Our focus is fully on how to take what is produced in a developed plant, extracting the things we want, and cleanly and efficiently and scalably introducing that into consumer products in a very consistent way. And so our focus in technology is on processing and ingredient and product infusion. So we see a lot of promise there with that comparable. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim Makoso, CEO of Flowe Technology. I want to open it up the questions to our investor judges. Before I do, I want to remind the audience, if you have questions, use the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom app. There is a Q&A button where you can type in your question. The panelists will then see your question so we can get to your questions and I can read them aloud. Do our investor judges have a question?
Yeah, I do. Jim, want to start off asking, well, great presentation, by the way. Love that deck. Good job. Quick follow-up on carboxylation and nanotechnology. Immediately to me, that's that's kind of a precursor for kind of overdosing on THC. Is that the reason why you're going towards that? What's kind of thought pattern behind that, and what are you going to do with it?
Great question. The reason why we are doing this is because of exactly what you mentioned, which is there are already people who are consuming way too much cannabis unwittingly or unknowingly. And it's because of the delayed onset usually associated with eating something, having it go into your gut, and then pass into the other parts of your body for processing. There's anecdotal evidence in other industries already about cannabinoid nanoparticles, and there's very little information as it pertains to the cannabis industry of how the particle size of, let's say, a cannabinoid or a cannabinoid-infused ingredient affects the uptake, or bioavailability is the term you'll hear that people have borrowed from the cannabis industry. So the goal in the background of what we're doing, and we're already in discussions with a prominent university here, is to set up the studies to do the research for the nanoparticles and the particle size specifically affecting the uptake of these products. I think what we will find, and you've seen this in other industries anecdotally, is that as we control the particle size of the cannabinoids we are delivering in our products, we will then see more consistency with the consumer experience. And ultimately, the really big companies, the companies that we haven't seen get involved in this space from a food, beverage, and supplement standpoint, the reason why we haven't seen them join in is because we cannot consistently produce consumer experiences that are consistent and without unwanted side effects. So the goal for us starting this company in terms of creating infused ingredients is to create a more consistent experience for consumers. And that's why we went in this direction. To your other part of your question about carboxylic acids, that we know, right, when it comes to THCA, that doesn't give you the euphoria, right? So it doesn't have a psychotropic effect. It's only when you decarboxylate it through heat or oxygen exposure over time that you get this THC, which gives you the euphoria. So THC, we don't think that people will be using THCA anytime soon to get high, but certainly with other cannabinoids that Davina pointed out, like in the case of CBDA, there's literature that shows that CBDA actually may be up to 100 times more active than the decarboxylated CBD. So our process lends to producing the acidic cannabinoids in nanoparticle form, and then depending on the application, we will decarboxylate or selectively not decarboxylate in our infusion process, and that's where some of our intellectual property is protected.
Excellent. Do we have another question from our investor judges? We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience as well. Do you have any other questions, Terry or David?
I have a quick one, Jim. Great presentation. Love what you're doing. And definitely there's a need for consistent delivery in the market for products. What is your current structure, though? I know you said you did a first raise of $150,000. If you could just kind of tell me real quick what your structure is right now and how many investors you have. And then also, when are you looking to bring on some type of sales team to start marketing your product once it is available?
Absolutely. So you asked specifically, what's the structure of our business? How many investors do we have? And what are we doing on the sales front? So the structure of our business is a corporation. We're set up as a Delaware corporation. The round that we're doing now, the $1 million raise, the convertible note was a part of that round. They were first money in at 150. In terms of investors, outside of the team that I have here, they're the only investors in. We financed this at the benchtop scale before we incorporated, purely out of our own capital. Between the co-founders, we invested about $100,000, completely off balance sheet, just as a small passion project on the side to prove viability. Once we proved it, we just, that's when we incorporated to keep our books super clean. So the only investment we have on the books at the moment is that $150,000 as a part of to lead the convertible note round. As far as sales are concerned, we have a sales manager, VP of sales, in our other business that we're bringing in on this business. He's exceptional. He has over 40 years of sales experience, and we have a group, one of the groups that's looking at us already for investment, that is a marketing and a distribution company that's looking to potentially join us in the sales effort. But beyond that, we have a lot of experience in this industry. We've been selling products in this industry for a long time, which is why we already have several companies that have already agreed to be our first customers because they believe in what we're building out. So great question.
Excellent. We have just about 2 or 3 minutes to answer a couple of other questions, and I want to get to the audience questions as well. I'm going to combine a few of the questions, and I think some of them have already been answered. One question was, how quick is an uptake of your product?
I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that my legal department would like me not to make claims on how quick our product is going to uptake. But here's what I will tell you from that standpoint. When it comes to uptake or bioavailability, our first research endeavor is looking into just that, the difference between our nanoparticles versus other forms of creating encapsulated nanoparticles that's common in the industry versus just using distillate and solvent to create infused ingredients, and doing a PK and even a PD study, or for those that don't know, a pharmacokinetic or pharmacodynamic study on exactly how quickly or how differently those formulation methods uptake in the body. So here's what I will say. There's literature out there already that a smaller particle size should lead to quicker uptake. The way it's carried into your body, be it through a sugar or a salt or a fat, that can affect how quickly it's uptaken and whether or not it bypasses, whether or not it gets absorbed into the blood quicker in your gut, or if it has to go through the liver, which leads to that 11-hydroxy-THC, which is a little bit more potent and takes a little bit longer time. But to answer your question directly, there are a lot of people studying that right now, and we include to study that with an accredited university in an academic study as our first order of business on the research side.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim Makoso. I know we have a lot of questions here. If you could, there's several questions that popped up in the Q&A. During the presentation, if you could type some of the answers maybe. Also, I want to remind you that if you have additional questions for Jim Makoso or any of the companies that presented here today, we do have the networking event following this. Well, it will be a separate meeting. We do have the networking meeting. You can ask your questions there, as well as their contact information. It will be available on the website at linkedventures.net.